So this story from AM Online is basically from this article. This article is Startline Motor Finance. Popularity of Chinese new entrants will be top trend of 2026. Say used car dealers. 12th of January. And these people come out with a story stroke press release every month, and it always gets repeated in, the various different, I was going to say magazines, but they're online. I don't know what you'd call them now. Online websites these days. So today we've got two articles doing the rounds. One from Startline Motor Finance called Chinese New Entrants Top Trend for 2026. Then we've got AM Online doing what AM Online does best. And I do pretty good with the same tactic too. Rewriting the first article and pretending it's breaking news. So let's go through this properly, because the way this story has been pushed out is classic motor trade media nonsense. If you're a dealer, hopefully you'll be able to see straight through it. If you don't see straight through it, you may be influenced and it may cost you a lot of money. Startline says the top used car trend of 2026 will be the popularity of Chinese new entrants, with 53% of dealers saying that's what's coming. 53%, that's a lot really, of dealers. I mean, how many dealers are they? Crikey, they're on every street, aren't they? But the first problem, that's not a finding. That's a prediction. Do you have a crystal ball? It's not data. It's an opinion. So it's like me asking dealers I know, all right, lads, what do we reckon is going to happen in 2026? We have a bit of a chat. I write it all down and I call it research. These results come from Startline's used car tracker. That's a God, I bet it's like, deep thought, the computer. They describe it like it's some major industry tracker, as if it's CAP, Cox Automotive, Auto Trader Data, BCA, Mannheim, the SMMT, the like real market forces, the ones to contend with. I don't agree with their information, by the way, so it might be just as accurate as theirs. But when you look closer, the tracker is based on 60 dealers and 303 consumers. That's it. 60 dealers. It's hardly a market-wide conclusion. It's a small sample of opinions dressed up like a national trend. And I don't want to be rude. Actually, I'm not bothered about being rude. I'd rather be truthful. 60 dealers is basically a decent sized trade breakfast. Not an industry data set. Just one dealership group could skew that on its own. They've also asked 303 consumers, and the article implies there's growing interest and acceptance. Again, what consumers? Where are they from? What are their ages? What income bracket? How many are EV owners already? How many have a driveway? How many are city-based? How many have never financed a car in their life and are just clicking buttons for survey points? We're told the number, but we're not told anything about the sample. So the truth is, this isn't research you can build a conclusion on. It's just a set of answers. Their claim. Chinese brands are growing rapidly. They mention Chinese brands becoming more established and growing dealer networks. Now, I'm not denying Chinese brands are in the UK. MG is everywhere. BYD, on the move. Amoda, Jayco. You can't go 5 minutes without seeing a press release, which you have to ask the question, why? Do we see all these press releases? I have my suspicions, but it's probably best if I keep them to myself so I don't get sued. But the phrase they keep using is Chinese new entrants. That's clever wording because it's vague enough to make it sound bigger than it is. MG isn't new, been here for years. And if you call it new entrants, you make it sound like the UK market is about to be invaded overnight. That could happen, to be honest, when in actual reality, this is a slower build and most buyers still pick brands they trust. They will inevitably feed into the used car market. Startline's CEO basically says it's inevitable. As these cars get more popular, they'll come through into used stock. Well, obviously, if you sell new cars, eventually they become used cars, or in the case of EVs, the same day, because you don't sell them. That's not a revelation. That's like me saying, if you eat food, inevitably, you'll need to go to the toilet. It's technically correct, but it's not a trend prediction. It's nature. What matters in the used market isn't whether they inevitably arrive, it's whether they arrive in meaningful numbers at the right ages with finance appetite, strong residuals and buyer confidence. That's what determines whether it becomes a trend. Their claim: dealers say it'll be the biggest trend of 2026. 53% of dealers apparently say Chinese brands will be the biggest trend. Right, and here's the big point. This isn't showing you what's happening. This is showing you what dealers think might happen. And dealers' feelings change every month, depending on stock supply, discounts, finance acceptance, interest rates, manufacturer bonus schemes, and whether the last 10 punters walked away because they couldn't insure it. So let's not pretend this is some hard market evidence. It's basically vibes. Another claim. Other big trends include electrification. They also list other trends like EV adoption, FEV interest, stock shortages, AI use in dealerships. And this is where you really see how weak this story is. Because apparently, Chinese new entrants is 53%, move to EVs is 50%, stock shortages 38%, AI use 37%, FEVs 35%, finance availability 25%, and the ZEV mandate influence 15%. Sorry? What? So the ZEV mandate, which is literally changing the entire new car market, supply mix, pre-reg tactics and pricing pressure, that's apparently only influencing 15%. But AI in dealerships is at 37%. That tells you everything you need to know. This intermarket model, it's a tick box survey. Now we go to AM Online, and AM runs dealers tip Chinese brands as top used car trends for 2026. So the writer at AM Online basically takes the Startline story, changes the headline, prints the same numbers, quotes the same CEO, and calls it news. Motor Trade news. There's no independent data, no validation, no deeper questioning, no challenges, no, hang on a minute. 60 dealers isn't exactly the full UK market, is it? Just copy, paste, publish. That's Motor Trade journalism these days. Content recycling. Anything to fit your narrative. What they don't talk about, the stuff that really matters. If we're talking about used car trends, here's what actually decides whether these cars become a major used trend. Parts availability, repair costs and repair times, insurance pricing, warranty risks, residual value stability, consumer confidence, trade appetite to stock them. How many are actually coming back from fleets? How many are getting dumped into the auction with scary depreciation? There was a Fisker in an auction the other day. It's had 2 owners in 9 months. Reserve is £10,000 for a 2025 25 plate. Anyway, none of the above was covered here. Not one word. Just they're coming. Dealers say so. Therefore, it's a trend. 53%, so 31 dealers said so. Here's my take as a dealer stroke market watcher. Yes, Chinese brands will become a bigger factor in the used market, but calling it the top trend of 2026 based on 60 dealers is ridiculous, because the top used car trends are normally things like affordability, finance acceptance rates, APR pressures, petrol versus hybrid demand swings, EV depreciation, retail supply shortages, manufacturer discounts, smashing residuals. Not Chinese new entrants as a headline trend. That's a press release friendly narrative to get your name in front of people in the motor trade for basically talking shit. The real reason this gets pushed, let's be honest, why does this story even exist? Because it creates clicks, discussion, panic, hype, and it makes finance companies sound like they're on top of the market and got the finger on the pulse without actually proving anything. It makes it sound like, here comes the big trend, you'd better listen to us. But when you broke it down, it's really, we surveyed 60 dealers and wrote a moronic press release. So in summary, Startline have published a small survey, and AM Online have published the same survey again, and both want you to believe this is the big headline trend for the used market in 2026. I'm not saying Chinese brands won't grow. What I am saying, this article proves absolutely nothing beyond one thing. A lot of the motor trade media will print a press release, as long as it comes with a percentage number and a quote from a CEO. Looks like that's going to be the real trend of 2026. Not Chinese brands. Not Chinese brands, trade press regurgitation. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video. Bye bye.